the letters I circulated for my antique auction. The original letter, dated February, was sent to all the friends of Bristol Cathedral and people on the Cathedral Row, and anyone else whom I thought would give. With hindsight, I would have used the back of this letter to list the sort of objects we would be grateful to receive, and if I were doing the appeal now, I would do just that. In other words, I would probably omit the bits in the third paragraph and say something like, "Please see reverse of letter for suggestions of what would be acceptable." Then people would have some inkling of what to offer. After I had sent out the appeal letter, I found people were confused as to what was required, and many of them, I felt, thought we only wanted Sheraton tables and so forth. Furthermore, they were terribly dilatory in producing the goods, and I did wonder whether my appeal letter was sent out too early. In the event, people just ignored the request to produce their offerings by the end of May, and were still bringing in stuff on the actual day of the sale. Obviously, the gifts have to be available in good time for cataloguing, and including in the catalogue. We had to type lists of last-minute stuff and stick the lists on the wall. I came to the conclusion that people were just too lazy to look out for stuff which everyone has packed away, as it usually entails going into cellars or attics and rifling through the collections of a lifetime. Usually the stuff they have is the sort of thing they never intend to use again. In my own case, after I had given quite a lot, we were short of lots, so I came home and looked at my stored stuff, which I had forgotten, and made myself bring down boxes of china and wash it all, and found another 10 lots. It's all a matter of discipline. This stuff I never intended to use again, so it really was merely taking up house room. It is quite absurd for people to say they haven't got anything, as older people always have things tucked away about which they don't give a thought, and you simply have to work on them and make them see that what they consider worthless would be fundraising for your appeal. Towards the end of my time factor, the auctioneer told me we would have to postpone, as there were just not sufficient lots, so I had to make a new appeal to the congregation in the form of a copied letter given to them when they came to service, and this had the desired effect of boosting the number of lots available. The stuff I gave made £250 at auction, and I can't really say it was that much of a sacrifice to give it, although there were some valuable bits of silver and gold among my offerings. I just discussed it with my family, asked them whether they wanted to keep the pieces I proposed to give, and when they said they would prefer them to be put in the sale, I gave them with an easy conscience. Some families do feel they ought to keep everything for their children, without asking their children how they feel about it, because it isn't everyone who treasures old objects. The second business letter I sent out at Easter. I went through the yellow pages and picked out about 60 businesses. Building societies no response, banks all gave, and insurance companies, and 1 or 2 publicly quoted companies. Out of this 60, I got 12 donations of £50 each, and the sprat I offered was to include their names in the catalogue. This money covered the expenses of the sale, advertising, catalogues, printing thereof. Minimal expense of the auctioneer. He was terribly generous, a kinder friend than our own friends, and also included the services of a very young and terribly enthusiastic helper from the firm, who worked like a demon for 2 whole days. We spent the whole of the day preceding the sale, setting up trestle tables, which we covered with plush maroon cloths supplied by the firm, and were able to use some glass-topped lockable cabinets from the cathedral, in which we exhibited the valuables such as silver and gold. On the day of the sale, we were also there for nearly 12 hours. On the preceding day, we had to put lot numbers on everything in accordance with the catalogue listing, and this was a specialized job and very time-consuming and almost tiresome. Then helpers had to hold up each lot as the auctioneer called them out, so that the buyers could see what was on offer. Most of these buyers were dealers, I suspect, who had come to the preview, which was open from 10 onwards until the sale at 2 p.m. I wrote to every city councillor 68 letters and received only one modest contribution of £5 from a Liberal, despite the fact of reminding the Lord Mayor that we held the civic services in the cathedral and that they had never supported the cathedral. In all, I must have sent out 800 letters, postage of which was also included in the money I received from the businesses. The administration of a 50-50 sale is quite onerous, as you have to keep a meticulous note of names, addresses and telephone numbers of all the people concerned, so that you know to whom you have to refund the 50%. Fortunately for me, only one person wanted his half share, and someone else asked for 10%, so I didn't have the chore of refunding money, which is just another chore after the sale is over. I certainly learned a lot about auctions and how they are conducted, but I doubt if I would ever undertake such a daunting task again single-handedly. No one helped me save the auctioneers, and looking back on the project, I am amazed how I coped. You certainly need a team so that each member can contact different people by word of mouth, although I suppose the cathedral has more merit than the parish church, and a new edifice at that. I was able to stress the ancient history of the cathedral and the important part it plays in the life of the Bristol community. And of course, people are fed up with appeals now, as there's such a plethora of them. I must say that if the roof of an 18-year-old church needs renewing, then I would move heaven and earth to make the builders and architects responsible for putting their mistakes right. I have just had a difficult roof repair done to my Georgian house by Stansels of Taunton, who are the experts in church architecture and roof repairs. They have just pinned into one wall of Wells Cathedral the new sculpture, which you have probably read about. I told them about your roof problems, and they held up their hands in horror and said their roofs lasted 500 years, and that the builders were responsible and ought to put the matter right. Best of luck with your sale. When is it to be? Incidentally, I wrote personally to every business who gave me £50 to thank them with a suitable letter, but of course, obviously, I had not the time to do this with the people who proffered gifts for the actual sale.